exist, and the only one that's in test phase would be the space-based solar power, and the analysis on that was actually done by NASA back in the 60s as a viable concept. But at the time, solar cell technology, the satellite would have been huge. It would have been almost impossible to launch. Well, now we're a lot better at getting our satellites smarter, smaller too. Smaller, smarter, and our solar cell collection capability is a lot better as far as efficiency is concerned, and weight. So now you can launch a satellite system, even if you do 2 or 3 launches and then build it like Legos up in orbit and make it larger. You can then beam raw energy in a safe microwave form that doesn't care if it's nighttime, cloudy, raining, or whatever, to a receiving station. And it will, if you put that satellite in geosynchronous orbit above that station, you have 24/7, 365 constant power, no matter what time of day it is. And no matter where you are in the world, it's portable. The satellite can repoint itself within a certain region to all the collection facilities that are in that zone of influence that it can reach. So all it's got to do is rotate its axis just a little bit, and you can recharge the batteries of different cities in a circular pattern forever, or at least until the satellite needs maintenance, and then you just send up the newest, best technology. But wind, wave, tidal, geothermal, all the rest of these do exist in some form or another, and they are getting better. Imagine how much better they would get if money wasn't an obstacle to the research and development of these advanced systems. If there weren't budget issues and concerns and restrictions on making these technologies as robust as possible, using the best materials possible that we have available.
Yeah, but many of these developments, they need to be industrialized. And many people would do that if they could earn a lot of money. We have to change human nature. No?
Not human nature. I don't believe in human nature. I believe in human behavior. Human behavior is a derivative of the environment that you live in.
Sure.
So I would say this is a value change system. You have to change the way people think about the world, how they interact with each other, what's more important, money or people. Right now we cultivate a system where it is better to be a greedy person and profit over somebody else in expense of somebody else. And that's what we promote and propagate in today's world. There are a few altruistic people who get money and then return it back, but we all know that the percentage of that is not adequate enough to provide sustainability. So it is a complete value set change. And it's not something that would happen overnight. It's going to happen in pockets. It's going to happen in small zones as people start to reduce their dependency on money and increase their efficiency of technical systems to provide for more people. So that's what the transition is. It's a weaning process. The world couldn't handle being dropped into a system like this. Half the people would go schizophrenic and probably lose their minds because they wouldn't understand selfless self-interest. They have only been experiencing selfish self-interest for the dawn of time. Like I said when I was up on stage this morning, throughout the entire course of human history, 300,000 plus million, if you go all the way back to Neanderthalic days, we've always lived in scarcity and rival competition to survive as an animal, as a species. People forget that humans are animals. We just happen to be the most advanced animal, but we're still animals. So scarcity, not having enough, having to fight or compete to survive, has been a natural characteristic of mankind. I totally agree.
It's a universal principle in the universe.
Until the universe comes up with ways.
Inequality, because otherwise we wouldn't have galaxies, we wouldn't have stars, we wouldn't have almost empty spaces in between.
But the galaxies and stars recycle themselves, do they not?
To a certain extent, still there is no energy left over.
Conservation of energy does not allow you to create nor destroy energy.
Well, it will be a cold soup of low energy, which is not able to build big structures.
Well, maybe 20 billion years in the future, but that's a little bit beyond my time.
Yes, it won't happen, but on the other hand, if there won't be inequality, then there will be no atoms, no molecules, and we wouldn't exist either.
Okay, but is any of that conscious?
I don't say that human being must behave exactly like that. But I just want to attract your attention that is a universal principle in the universe, otherwise it wouldn't exist. That doesn't mean that it can't gradually over time change human behavior. I don't say that.
Okay.
I just want to attract your attention to that.
Okay. So let's jump over to transportation, clean transportation. Again, I don't like setting things on fire to make things move. Ultra electric cars, robotic GPS-driven cars, outdoor mobile sidewalks. I mean, we use them in the airport, and we love them, right? You hop on that and you walk almost twice as fast. And you're still walking, but you got one person there carrying your luggage, and you're here, and you're ahead of them. Why don't we have that outside? We have the material capabilities to do that. So you would make it out of, sun-proof. You wouldn't make it out of rubber unless you had some way to cure it so that the sun wouldn't degrade the rubber and cause it to crack and break. You can make it out of carbon fiber materials. You can make it out of something. I'm not a materials scientist, but I have a lot of belief in the fact that a materials scientist team could come together and say, we know exactly what to make that out of so it can last 50 years and have mobile sidewalks. Maglev train systems. Locally, about a 400-mile range for maglev train systems. Very similar to what China's doing. And a lot of Asia is big in the magnetic levitation train system. I wish America was. For some reason, we were really good at inventing amazing technologies, but when it came to the maglev train thing, it's like we love our cars too much, which makes absolutely no sense. And then you have the maglev vacuum tube train. And I'll go into a little more detail about that. It's a supersonic train. This would be over 400-mile range because if it was any shorter, the accelerations to get up to speed and go back down would probably give you a big headache. So it's a train that can go 2,000 miles an hour, 2,000 plus miles an hour, roughly 3,218 kilometers an hour. Nonstop from Berlin to Madrid would be about an hour. Right now it's 3 hours by plane that pollute much more. This is a real technological advancement that exists in model and in theory and could exist because the analysis has already been done. There's a Popular Mechanics article in the handout, or if you have the USB drive, it's in my report that I provided for this, that talks about exactly how that system would work. And there's an entire system, and you could even do it underwater. You can have it go intercontinental. And it would be basically a floating, there's where the shape memory alloys would kind of come into play, so that if things bent or moved, it can move with it. And it's a floating train anyway, so you're not directly connected to the track. So even if the track did shift a little, that's not going to make a lot of difference to the train as it goes by, because you're not touching the track. The speeds are amazing, the comfort. You imagine a 500-person train instead of a 500-person cattle car aircraft, where the train you actually had a room with a bed, and you were able to, if you wanted to sleep, even though your travel times would be really short, you still could sleep, or at least relax, on this jaunt from New York to LA in an hour and a half or two, something like that. Yeah.
Is it much more sustainable than trains which you have now? Because if we change from train system we have now in Europe to this, there's a lot of energy needs to build an infrastructure.
Right.
There's a lot of investment of energy.
Right, to go into it. Now think about long term. You've got initial investment of energy to convert everything. All of these systems could be solar wind powered. So they would have the track, along the line of the track would have its solar wind powered stations. In the long run, these systems would last 50, 60, 70. I mean, right now you've got to expend energy anyway to maintain the trains that you've got, to maintain the tracks that you've got. If you were to switch it over, that maintenance actually drastically drops. And it's a more sustainable, long-lasting technology. So in the long run, over the long term, the energy investment would be less because eventually it powers itself. And you don't have to put anything into it because it's a clean energy powered system. So you don't, after you build it once, you're effectively done until it comes to like small maintenance and things of that nature.
Does it have any effect on the climate? Have any effect on it? Say you're in a cold country or a hot country?
As far as expanding and contracting of the tracks or things of that nature, no, because it's in a vacuum tube, it's actually completely isolated from the environment. So the tube would be however X meters thick, and it would be an insulated environment. So no matter what's going on outside, that train always experiences the same low vacuum level. Now, I'm not talking about a hard vacuum like space, just enough of a vacuum to where you can achieve those speeds without creating so much friction on the skin of the train where it, heats up like space shuttle reentry or something like that. We don't have to worry about putting heat shields or anything on the system, but you want to get as many air molecules out of the way as possible, or gone, so that the train can achieve those speeds using as little energy as possible. And the analysis would be done to make that happen. Yes?
And for example, what you're saying about the energy that would, and the cost to move from the standard train usage to maglev into the vacuum tube. Japan is the country who came with the maglev, which is in place now, and they're choosing not to change maglev because they have already put the whole Shinkansen system throughout Japan, and the cost to put the maglev now would be too great. That's what they say. So they have the system, but what they're doing, they're only selling to other countries instead of using themselves.
Right, and it's a cost issue, so we're back to finance again. So notice how we always go back to cost? We're not talking about capability, we're not talking about resource availability, we're not talking about knowledge and human ability and ingenuity. We always come back to cost. That should be a red flag in your head.
Not only, but big systems in real world break down, even if they're automatic.
True.
And I worked, for example, during my studies with vacuum tubes for semiconductor physics. And it needs a lot of energy and a lot of hassle to keep a tube, for example, from Berlin to Madrid empty. What is the global energy balance?
Well, to be honest, that would have to be analyzed. I can't give you the answer. I don't know. But whatever.
Just wondering whether you
No, you don't know that.
rough figure.
No, I don't give rough figures. I only give the facts that I know. I'm okay with saying I don't know.
Okay.
I'm humble enough to know that I don't know everything. I'm just giving you something to think about.
Neither do I.
And so, but the maglev tube train is a viable technology that does need further research. It got to a point, but then like, oh, that's going to cost $1 trillion to do, so they put that on the back burner. Well, if money was no object, you could have the scientists and research team really develop and solve those problems, overcome those challenges, figure out, well, maybe we need to put vacuum pumping stations every mile, small ones, so that they all work together, and they'll have their own solar power facility or wind power facility, so that they can run themselves. They're all independent of each other. So there are ways to overcome those challenges if we actually put the brain power to it.
If we didn't have to spend all that money on weapons and
Right.
arms trades.
Yeah. If you didn't waste so much resources on missiles, tanks, bombs, and guns, and actually put it towards this, it'd be amazing what we could do. I do have links for every single one of these technologies in the handout, so you can actually go and see how these work, what it's all about, all these transportation systems.
You have them on the internet also, this?
I could probably post the report online. I'm sure I can get it on the Venus Project website at some point. I really didn't think about that. Communication. We all pretty much know how this one works. We use it all the time nowadays. I mean, you got your satellite communication, your smartphones, and your internet. And that happens to be a system that we have adopted in abundance in a way. The only problem is third world nations don't really have it. Not as much as I would like for them to be able to communicate.